After almost 3 decades on the air, Law & Order is finally getting credit for an underrated element of its historic run. The long-running procedural was groundbreaking when it first premiered in 1990 because it combined police and legal drama. It was the first show to depict what happens after an arrest is made rather than ending each week's episode with the cops closing their case. Additionally, both Law & Order and Law & Order SVU base stories on real-life cases, something which was once novel but has now been adopted by many procedurals. Many of the best Law & Order episodes depict the way crime and its aftermath affect victims, families, and defendants. For this reason, the procedural is more dependent on strong guest performances than most other crime dramas. Law & Order has done an especially good job of casting children and teenagers in intense roles. Notably, many of these young actors have grown up to become well-known in the industry as adults. SAG 2025 highlights Law & Order being the breeding ground for so many top actors now. SVU star Mariska Hargitay presents a video honoring the franchise's many guest stars. The Law & Order franchise's best-kept secret is that booking a role on the iconic series is often the first step toward building a career as an actor. While some guest stars are already well-known when they participate in an episode, most are relatively obscure. Additionally, the franchise has a greater-than-average need for child actors, which allows performers of all ages to get their start. Many actors make a strong impression while appearing in only a small number of scenes, and some appear in multiple episodes as different characters. While the value of booking a role in one of Law & Order's shows is relatively well-known within the industry, it has not been acknowledged overtly in the past. For the first time, SAG 2025 highlights this aspect of Law & Order's legacy. Law & Order, SVU's Mariska Hargitay presents a short video listing many of the now famous guest stars that have been on set in the past 25 years while also acknowledging that there are far too many such actors to list all of them. Why the Law & Order franchise is the perfect starting show in Hollywood. The procedural requires lots of one-off roles. Law & Order Abigail Spencer as Michelle Burns, sitting with her hand on her neck. Its procedural formula requires each episode to utilize Law & Order's guest actors for both major and minor parts. During the first half of each episode, the detectives interview a lot of people, some of whom only appear in 1 or 2 scenes. For example, the series may need guest actors to play hot dog vendors, parents picking up their kids from school, taxi drivers, or other witnesses who only appear briefly, and there is also usually an arraignment judge. Some actors shine so brightly in these small roles that the franchise invites them to play other small parts occasionally. Of course, there are also bigger roles available within each episode, and some of these are among the most intense or dramatic parts available on network television. The actors playing victims, witnesses, defendants, and lawyers have the opportunity to explore unique and emotional roles. Thus, appearing in Law & Order allows them to stretch their acting muscles and add clips to their portfolio that demonstrate a wide range of abilities. Since the franchise is filmed on location in New York, actors who live there can build their career without having to travel. Specifically, the franchise often employs out-of-work Broadway stars, allowing them to make the transition from stage work to television roles. This also helps support Broadway actors' careers when they are between shows, and many such actors picked up work in the franchise when Broadway was closed during the 2020 COVID lockdown. Who are the Law & Order franchise's biggest guest stars thus far? Over the course of decades, many actors have gone on to bigger things. Law & Order David standing by a bunch of items for sale. Since most actors are not well known when they first guest star on Law & Order, they aren't recognizable until re-watching old episodes. For example, Sabrina Carpenter made her acting debut on Law & Order SVU at age 11, but she played only a small role and was not known then. Thus, it can be surprising to re-watch an episode and recognize someone who wasn't an important part of the Law & Order cast at the time. Carpenter is one of a handful of child actors who got their start in the Law & Order franchise. Riverdale's Lily Reinhardt and Succession's Nicholas Braun also appeared in the franchise before they became famous on their own shows. Well-known adult guest stars include Ed Wheeler, Jennifer Gardner, and Elizabeth Banks, and there are many established actors as well as newcomers who have guest starred on these procedurals as a stepping stone in their careers.